God, that's our prayer this morning, to surrender our hopes, our dreams, our doubts, our fears. God, thank you that you are a God that is worthy of our worship and worthy of our praise. This morning, as we get into your word, I pray that here and at Carbondale, you would speak through me this morning, through Pastor Casey over in Carbondale, and that we would have hearts ready and open to receive from you this morning. God, we love you. We thank you for what you're going to do here. In Jesus' name, amen. Why don't you guys take a minute, greet one another, and then you can go ahead and have a seat. All right. For those of you who may not know me, I will tell you what I told Carbondale last week. My name is Dylan Grimm, unless things go poorly today, in which case my name is Casey Wiseman, and I am the campus pastor here at Waymart. But no, just kidding. My name actually is Dylan Grimm, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys this morning for a couple of reasons. But number one is because I love this series that we started last week about equipping the next generation. You know, if you don't know me or my past or how I grew up, youth ministry is something that is incredibly important to me, and it's been a part of my life for almost 15 years now. So when I was 13 years old, I had a family member who started a camp based out of Houston, Texas, and what we did is we took kids in the probation court system from inner city Houston, took them on 12-day backpacking trips in Colorado to hopefully give them an experience with creation for the first time and with Jesus for the first time. And as a 13-year-old, I didn't have much responsibility at the time, but I did get to see the way that God can change the lives of young people in some pretty incredible ways. And from then on out, working with youth has been something that I have loved and that I have done since that moment. I went to college, I worked at a summer camp, I actually worked there full-time for a couple of years, and about 4 years ago, myself and one of my friends here, Autumn, at the Waymart Church, looked around and realized that we need to do something for the high school students here at the Waymart Church, so we started a high school youth group here. And the first week, I've told this story to a couple of people, the very first week that we had our group, we had 3 kids come out. And if I'm honest with you, I was a little disappointed, but it was in that moment that we decided that we were going to be faithful in the little things and trust God with the results. Today, we normally get about 35 to 40 young people, middle school and high school, to come out on Wednesday nights. And I'm not telling you that to tell you about how we've grown the youth group, but to tell you that God is doing some pretty incredible things here through the youth at the Waymart Church. And one of the reasons why I love youth ministry and why I've been a part of it for almost 15 years now, like I said, is because these are some of the most formative years of our lives, right? I still have habits that started when I was in middle school. You'll probably see me do it during the service, but I'd still crack my fingers because I started doing that when I was in middle school. Some of the thought patterns, some of the words that we say, some of the actions that we do, we can trace them all the way back to when we were kids. So these are some of the most formative years of our lives. So we've been talking about equipping the next generation. And how do we do that? Well, by giving them a couple of things, right? A solid Bible foundation we talked a little bit about last week. Today we're going to talk about a responsibility to own your faith. And the next week we'll talk about a call to live that faith out in everyday life. So last week we talked about a solid foundation and how that's super important, right? Because not to get really morbid here first thing on a Sunday morning, but at some point all of our lives on earth are going to come to an end. And when that happens, what are we going to leave the Waymart Church, the Carbondale Church, and the earth as a whole? Because if we can build this solid foundation in our youth today and equip them and train them to that when it's their time to step up into leadership, to be able to pick up that mantle and carry it further than we ever could have, that should be the goal of our generation and the generations that came before me. So before we get into our message this morning, I want us to all do something together, and that is I want you to find one person in here that you do not know, and I want you to greet them and tell them who you are. I'll give you 1 minute. Ready, set, go. All right, as people are starting to make their way back to their seats, one part of the solid foundation that I was given as a child is that we weren't really like a movie family. I say that, well, kind of, because we have like these 15 to 20 movies that I feel like I've seen 100 times, but outside of that, I haven't really seen many other movies. So like Miracle or Remember the Titans, I can probably quote most of those movies. And one that's come out a little bit more recently that anytime this movie is on TV, my family will stop whatever we're doing and watch it, is Ford versus Ferrari. Has anyone seen this movie before? Okay, so we love this movie. We watch it all the time. And there is this quote in the movie that I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember the quote exactly, so I'm going to read it to you guys here. It says, "There's a point at 7,000 RPMs where everything fades. The machine becomes weightless, just disappears. And all that's left is a body moving through space and time. 7,000 RPM, that's where you meet it. It asks you the only question that matters. Who are you?" And you know, this movie is not a Christian movie, but this is a question that everyone is trying to figure out, right? Who are you? Who am I? And when the reason I wanted you guys to introduce yourselves to each other this morning is because what are some of the things that we tell each other when we meet someone new? You know, maybe it's your name, or we're in church, so maybe how long you've been coming to church here, your family, what you do for work. I mean, that's what I do when I meet someone new, right? The first thing I ask them is, so what do you do for a living? And if we're not careful, our faith can become something that we do and not something that we are. You know, if we're not careful, our faith can be, I come to church on Sunday morning or Monday night or Wednesday night. Or my faith can be, I pray before meals, or I read the Bible because I know that's what I'm supposed to do. But today we are going to be talking about owning our faith and moving that from something that I do to something that I am. And I know everyone in here has a different life experience, and I don't know that life experience of each person. But what I can say is most of us have gone through a couple of these stages of faith here this morning. We have pre-faith, foundational faith, exploring faith, exercising faith, and owning your faith. And we're going to talk about each one of these a little bit more in detail this morning. And we're not going to spend much time on this one, but this idea of pre-faith, this idea that is before you developed your consciousness. I have not a family of my own, but I have little nieces and nephews that are running around everywhere. And my youngest nephew, cutest kid in the world, like he's always running around with his like tummy stuck out all the way, and super cute kid. And I look at him sometimes and I think, like, wow, he's got it made. Like, if he sleeps in till 9 a.m., everyone's like celebrating. If I do that, I'm lazy. You know, he doesn't have to worry about where his next meal's coming from. He doesn't have to wear pants around the house. Like, it's just, it's cool to look at him and be like, man, that kid's got it made. Except for the occasional, blinded by the rage because his mom can't cut up the pizza fast enough or whatever it is, his life is pretty good. But if we're honest, none of us want to go back to this stage. As nice as it sounds to not have any of the responsibility of being an adult today, that's what makes us who we are. So none of us really want to go back here. So the next stage is this foundational faith. And we talked a lot about this last week. I know Pastor Casey was here last week talking about the importance of this foundation. Because when I was growing up, anything an adult told me, I just assumed that was true. Because today, what do kids do? When they have a question, they Google it. When I was growing up, Google wasn't like super available yet. So what did I do? I asked mom and dad. And if they didn't know, they made something up. And even in those moments when, maybe an adult in my life was telling me the truth, I didn't always receive that in the right way. Like I remember being in pre-K, and my teacher was teaching us our rights from our lefts, right? And obviously, she was facing us, like we're doing today. She was facing us, and we were facing her. And so she would raise her right hand and would refer to it as my right, your left, and would refer to this hand as my left, your right. So my little 4-year-old mind thought, oh, adults and kids have different rights and lefts. That's just what she means by that. And that's a silly story, but the idea that we are building a foundation for our young people, right? That the rest of their life, they are going to be building off of what they're told and what we teach them at this super formative time in their lives. And if we're honest, that's the easy part. The hard part comes next as we get into this idea of exploring faith. Because at some point, someone's going to, or you're going to have some kind of life experience that goes against what you were taught when you were younger. For me, it was walking into my pantry, and my mom asked me to grab something on the left, and I said, your left or my left? And we had this whole conversation that, no, you're an idiot. It's not that adults and kids have different rights and lefts, but again, silly story, but at some point, all of us are going to have some kind of doubt. And what I want to do this morning is take away the negative connotation of doubt, because honestly, faith and doubt go hand in hand. And if you never doubt, you may never truly believe. And I don't know about you guys, but there's something in human nature that there's almost comfort in other people being messed up too, right? So some of my favorite verses in the Bible are in Matthew 28, and this is after the disciples had been with Jesus and they've experienced his whole ministry here on earth, and they saw him die, they saw him come back to life, and they've been spending time with him. And what do the verses say? It says, "Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted." And I don't know about you, but that makes me feel better about myself, right? Because there were these men who had experienced life with Jesus himself, and even at the end, they were still doubting. And that doubt didn't change who they were. It didn't change their experience. It didn't change what God was doing in their lives. And if I'm honest, sometimes in the church, we don't feel comfortable expressing those doubts. We don't feel comfortable expressing when we might not be feeling the way we know that we're supposed to feel. But in Jude chapter 1, there's a verse that says, "Have mercy on those who doubt, whose faith is wavering." And when I read this verse, I thought about on Sunday nights at the Waymart Church hosts pickup basketball for men over at the Lador Park building. And it's funny walking in there and seeing the difference between the old guys and the young guys. Because the young guys can walk in, they'll lace up their shoes and they're good to go. The old guys have like this 15 to 20 minute like warm up stretch period that they need to do so they don't hurt themselves, because if something doesn't bend in an old person, it breaks. And this morning, I'm not telling you that we have to bend the truth. That's the opposite of what I'm telling you this morning. What I'm saying is that when we have those who doubt within the walls of this church, within our families, within our friend groups, to have mercy on them. Because if we're all honest, we've all doubted something about our faith at some point. And that's not a bad thing. There's good things that come from this struggle with doubt. First of all, it drives the need for answers. Doubt doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that you're thinking. If I accept everything that I've ever been told my whole life without ever thinking about it, then that's not my faith, right? That's my parents' faith. That's my mentor's faith. That's my pastor's faith, whoever was speaking into me. But if I can start to think through some of these things for myself, see, that's when my faith becomes my own. And something else that can be hard sometimes is struggling, wanting to believe something specific. Because there's still things today that I wish that as a Christian, I didn't have to believe because they still make me uncomfortable. Just being completely honest, the idea that hell exists and is a real place is something that's uncomfortable. Like, I don't like believing that, but that doesn't change the reality. That doesn't change that it's a real place. But it produces these questions, right? God, why did you have to create the world that way? And when we go to the Bible, when we go to pastors and mentors in our lives, we can answer some of these questions, right? It's, that exists because God is perfect. And outside of him, there's nothing that's perfect, including us. But he loved us so much that he sent us Jesus so that we could escape the penalty of not being perfect, which leaves us with two results. You can either accept or reject. You can either have faith or you cannot believe. And this morning I just want a quick sidebar with parents about when your child asks you these questions. Because a child's questions, is that me? Are a parent's most important faith foundation development moments. Think for a moment, if you were to have your child come in after school into the kitchen, wherever you are in your house, and say, Mom, Dad, why does God allow this person to keep bullying me? Why is God allowing my best friend to move away? Or as sad as this is, it's happened in our local school districts here just within the last couple of years. Why, you have a high school student that comes home and says, why did my friend take their own life because she felt like she wasn't loved? What kind of feelings come up when we think about this scenario, right? There's fear maybe, there's panic that I don't know what to do, I don't know how to answer these questions. And honestly, a lot of the time, I'm right there with you. Now, I've worked with youth long enough to have some of these young people come up to me and ask me these questions, and I'm sure I look like a deer in headlights when they ask me. Because honestly, I don't have the answers. But if we can stop what we're doing and give them undivided attention, so put the phone away, turn the stove off, put down the book that you're reading, and listen, because God, for whatever reason, is entrusting this teachable moment to you. And pray, God, I need your wisdom because I don't have the answers to this myself. And last, and this is a must down here, is go to the Bible. Because like we just said, I don't have the answers myself, but the answers are contained in here. You might not have the exact answer to every question that your kid might ask you in here, but I promise you that there are principles contained in here that can help your child take the next step in their faith. And you know what? If you don't know the answer, that's okay. It's okay to say, I don't know why why that happened, or I don't know what you're going through right now. But let's take a look at the Bible together and build your faith and build my faith at the same time. And, I think it's important to kind of get the point across that, when you doubt, you're not alone. The Bible's full of people who have experienced doubt or struggled with it at some point. There's one guy in particular that I think gets a really bad rap. He was one of Jesus' disciples. He spent 3 years with Jesus learning, seeing him do ministry. He saw him die. And then Jesus came back to life, appeared to some of the disciples, and they were so excited that they went out and they told the other disciples that weren't there when it happened. And there's this one guy named Thomas who wasn't there when it happened, but as the disciples told him this, he said, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." And Thomas got the nickname Doubting Thomas because of this one moment in his life. And I think that's maybe a little bit unfair to him, because if you look through the rest of his life, he did some pretty awesome things. Like when Jesus was coming back to Jerusalem to ultimately die for our sins, Thomas said, "Let's go with him so that we can die with him." See, this was a guy that was committed, right? He was committed, at least in word, to serving Jesus and to loving Jesus. And there's another story with Thomas, how Jesus was talking with his disciples, going away to prepare a place for them. And I imagine Thomas like the kid in the back of the classroom that really wants to answer a question or has a question, and he's raising his hand, and he says, "We don't know where you're going. How can we go with you?" And it's not that Thomas was saying, "I don't believe you." He was saying, "I just need some details," or "I just have some questions." And you know what? I love this story because in the next verse, it says, "A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, 'Peace be with you.'" The part about this that really sticks out to me is the first couple of words here. A week later. In the midst of his doubt and his struggle, Thomas didn't stop showing up, right? Because you never know when you're going to have a personal experience with Jesus. And Thomas goes on to become a person that flips the world upside down, who is so passionate about preaching Jesus that ultimately it cost him his life. So Thomas kept showing up, and Jesus said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Take your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." And when we look at this, a personal experience with Jesus changed Thomas's life forever. It goes on to say that Thomas calls him my Lord and my God. And like I said, he went on to have this incredible ministry, which ultimately he was martyred for his faith. What Thomas experienced was going from doubt to belief. Is we have this bridge in the middle, and it's called faith. And this lack of belief, it's not really on God. If we're honest with ourselves, a lot of the times it starts with us. Maybe you say, I don't feel it, or I don't understand it. And maybe you have some questions that you can't answer. Maybe you have some hurt that's unresolved and you feel like it's unfair, or other situations in your life are unfair. Or these two at the bottom are especially dangerous, right? That I'm not ready to surrender yet. Or I choose to not have faith. In working with students, you hear all kinds of different excuses for why we don't want to take the next step in our faith with Jesus. But I want to encourage you guys this morning that you don't know when your next chance is going to be. Right? The opportunity that Jesus is giving us today is the same, but the outcomes can become very, very different. I think about this just looking at my family, right? I have 5 sisters and I have a brother. My parents parented the same way for all of us. We like to joke that they got a little soft on the younger ones, but that's beside the point. But just looking at the lives of my siblings, you have my younger sister Kelly, who is so sold out for Jesus that it's ridiculous, right? She's walking down the streets of Denver. She'll stop, buy a meal with a homeless person, veteran, pray with them. Wants to just serve God with her whole life and with her whole heart, and that's awesome to see. And then you have a person like me, who had to come to a point where they were at rock bottom before they turned back to Jesus. And the point I'm trying to get across today is that the opportunity that we have today here is the same, to accept that next step with Jesus, whatever that might be. But if we continue to put it off, we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know when we're going to have another chance to do that. So I would encourage you today, as we talk through some of this stuff, to take it personally and to start exercising our faith. Really, what this means is using your faith. You know, as someone who used to be a little bit more athletic, a couple years ago I had knee surgery on my ACL. And I was in this big brace from like up here to down here. My leg was completely locked out for like 6 weeks. I couldn't bend it. And it was crazy to me how quickly the muscle on my leg here just like disappeared. And why was that? Because if I wasn't using it, I was losing it. And our faith can kind of be the same way. So when you exercise faith, it's the active demonstration and practice of your personal belief, a trust in God's promises, his character, and his will. And he gives us some exercise equipment, right? The first of these, we already talked about this a little bit, is showing up. So if you're here today and you're doubting and you're struggling, I want to commend you because you're still here. You showed up, and that's the first step. We have a lot of kids in the youth group that like to go to the gym and work out, and they always talk about how some of the most important part is just showing up. Even if you're not at your best, even if you're not feeling like you want to do it, just showing up is so important. God gives us prayer, direct access to him. We talk about God gives us access to the Bible and his guidebook to life. He gives us community. He gives us each other, people like us, people struggling with the same things, so that we can live life and do life together. And when we do these things, when we struggle through our faith, when we start to exercise our faith, eventually we begin to own our faith. And I don't want to stand up here today and say that we ever are going to get to the point where we know everything and everything is great, because honestly, the cycle kind of looks more like this. You know, we're in this explore phase, and then we can exercise it, and then I own my faith, and yes, I'm confident in what I believe, and then something else might happen, right? And you start the process over again. And that's okay. Because if I'm honest with you guys, the scariest place for me to be is sitting right in that seat by Tommy during the second song before the service starts. Because as I'm sitting there, you know what's going through my head? It's, you're going to get up there and you're going to talk after what you did this week, after what you said this week, after what you thought this week, after you're struggling the way that you're struggling. And these doubts start to fill my mind with, what if I'm not supposed to do this? What if I'm wrong? What if this isn't real? And that exit sign right there starts to look pretty good. But because 3 years ago I had a personal experience with Jesus, I could stand by that seat right there and I can say, powers of hell, you have no power over me because I was bought with the blood of Jesus. And thank God that I'm not who I was, because there's still room for growth. I'm not where I want to be, but thank God that I'm not who I was. So this morning, how do we go from being a pew sitter? For some of our young people, That's what we used to have here instead of these comfy chairs. So I would go from being a pew sitter, to a child of a churchgoer, or just a Christian kid, to an owner, to a faith-filled follower, to a people reacher. Well, there's a couple of things that we can do here. Number one, be a model. We talked about this last week. I know Pastor Casey was here and talked about the importance of modeling what a life with Jesus looks like for the next generation. Part of that is spending time with Jesus. Because, I talk with the youth all the time about if you had a boyfriend or if you had a girlfriend and you talked to them for an hour on Sundays and then didn't talk to them for the rest of the week, how do you think that relationship would look? Right? So why would we want our relationship with Jesus to look like that? It should be something that we're excited about, that we love to spend time with him. And the next part of that is service, right? Because God has given us so much love and grace that we want to share that with the next person. And then this idea of finding community, again, like we have here at the church, just people with common ground. I get excited when I find another Celtics fan that I can talk to, right? Because that's common ground. But as Christians, we all have common ground in that we've experienced the love of Jesus. So what happens when we can own our faith? There's a couple of things here. Number one, a fulfilled life. And I'm not saying that when you have a life with Jesus and you own your faith that everything's going to be perfect and everything's going to be butterflies and rainbows and great. But I am telling you that he will give you a mission and a purpose that will make your life a life worth living with great fulfillment. He gives us freedom and peace. He gives us freedom from the weight and the consequences of sin and shame and guilt. He gives us life transformation, and that's something that I love about the church here at Waymart, right? Is as we look around, this is a room full of people that if someone walked in here, they would say, I can't believe that person's at church. And you know what? It's because we've had experiences with Jesus that has changed our lives. And in those experiences, he gives us strength and a support group here. And he gives us all of these things on earth, and he gives us an eternity with God in heaven. So as we wrap up here this morning, I'll invite the worship team to join me up on the stage. So I know we flew through a lot of information this morning, but now what? What do we do? First thing I want to encourage you guys this morning to do is ask the questions. If you're struggling with doubt, if you're struggling with a lack of faith, if you're struggling with whatever, find someone that you trust, a pastor, a small group leader, a family member, a mentor, and start asking the questions, because that's the only way that we get answers. Spend time in the Word and in prayer. All of the answers that we're looking for are contained in this Word, and prayer is something that, if this is how God talks to us, that's how we talk to God, and he already knows what you're feeling. He already knows what you're thinking. He already knows what you're doubting. So I'd encourage you, share that with him and have that conversation. And when he does show you things in your life that maybe are uncomfortable or that you might have to change, align your actions with what he's teaching you to do. Be that model that we've been talking about. And the last one here is celebrate your victories. Look back on your life and be able to, you might not be where you want to be right now, but thank God that you're not where you were. I'm going to end today with just a quick story. And this story was about, it's found in Mark chapter 9, and Jesus came up to this young boy who was being possessed by an evil spirit. And Jesus asked the boy's father, how long has he been like this? From childhood, the father answered. It has often thrown him into fire or water to kill him, but if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. And you can almost feel the doubt here. You can almost feel the hopelessness here. If you can, said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. And I love this response that the father has. He says, immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." You know what? Maybe you're here this morning and you've experienced hurt from a loved one, from a family member, from a friend, God forbid, from the church. And you're sitting out there and you're like, "Yeah, Dylan, that sounds great, but you don't know what they've done to me." And honestly, I don't. But what I can encourage you to do is to take that to Jesus, to pray this prayer: "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." You know, maybe you're here this morning and you've suffered some kind of loss of a loved one, a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, grieving the end of a relationship, whatever that might be, and you might be saying, "Dylan, I don't understand how a God that loves me could let that happen to me." And what I want to encourage you this morning is take that to Jesus. Pray this prayer: "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." And you know, maybe everything looks good on the outside, right? And we're here this morning with our families, but you have something on the inside in your heart that you're holding on to. Maybe it's a secret addiction. Maybe, I don't know what it might be. And you might be thinking, "Am I ever going to get victory over this?" Let me encourage you this morning, take that to Jesus. Pray this prayer: "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." The story ends and it says, "When Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. 'You deaf and mute spirit,' he said, 'I command you, come out of him and never enter again.' The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, 'He's dead.'" But it doesn't stop there. It says, "But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up." Church, let me tell you this morning that the same Jesus that had the power over this evil spirit is the same Jesus that we have today. The same Jesus that can take you from doubt to faith. The same Jesus that can break addictions. The same Jesus that can heal your heart. The same Jesus that can come alongside of you in whatever you're going through and walk you through to the other side. Because faith isn't a destination, it's a journey that we're all on. So this morning, the worship team's going to play in just a minute. If you have doubts, if you have something you're struggling with, if you have something that you'd like to talk about this morning, come to the altar. You know, I'll be up here willing to pray and talk with anyone that would like to. If you're not comfortable with me, that's fine. We have other people at the church that would love to have some conversations with you about how you can take the next step in your walk with Jesus. If you want to begin a relationship with Jesus this morning, you know, we're here for that too. Whatever you might need as the worship team plays, I'd encourage you, come get it today, because we don't know when our next opportunity is going to be. So if you'd stand and worship with us.
Surrendering all, surrendering all. Find me here, Lord, as you draw me near, desperate for you, desperate for you. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. Quench my soul
if you're here today and you need prayer for anything, if you have anything you want to talk about, and walking up in front of 200 people isn't your thing, it's okay. It's not mine either. But if you would like prayer after the service today, I'll be here up front hanging out for a little bit. Would love to meet you. Would love to get to talk to you. If you're a guest here with us this morning, we'd invite you right out the back doors to the right. We'll have a guest reception where we'll have some smiling faces ready to greet you and get you plugged in. Let's pray together and then we'll be dismissed. God, thank you. Thank you that you love us. Thank you that even when we doubt, you don't give up on us. And thank you for sending your son, Jesus, to die for us because you wanted a relationship with us. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for this community that you've blessed us with. God, let us not take that for granted. But as we continue to all grow in our faith and take that next step, let us see clearly what that is and help each other do that. We love you. We thank you again for an opportunity to be together, to worship, and to hear from you. Give us a great rest of the day today. Give us traveling mercies wherever we may go. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a great Sunday.